Good day, everyone. We'd like to welcome you all to our presentation on managerial decision making and process improvement, two important areas that play a crucial role in effective laboratory management and organizational success. For today's discussion, we'll be sharing insights on how good decision making and continuous improvement work hand in hand to make operations more efficient and reliable. I will be your first presenter. I am Genevieve Andy Santiago, and I will be discussing managerial decision making, focusing on how managers make sound and strategic choices to keep laboratory operations running smoothly. After that, Ms. Diana Lizo will present the second part of our topic, which is process improvement, where she'll explain how laboratories can continuously enhance their systems and workflows for better performance and quality. Once again, thank you for being here, and we hope you'll gain useful insights from our presentation. Let's start by understanding how managers make smart and practical choices that keep everything in the lab running efficiently. To discuss this further, I am Genevieve Andy Santiago with our first topic, managerial decision making. Let's start by understanding why decision making is such an important part of laboratory management. In any laboratory decision making plays a big role in making sure everything runs smoothly. Managers make choices every day: how to use limited resources, how to schedule staff, and how to maintain safety and quality standards. Each decision affects not only the workflow, but also the quality of results and the overall success of the lab. That's why understanding how decisions are made and in which areas they matter most is essential for effective management. Now let's look at why decision making is so important in laboratory management. Decision making keeps lab operations efficient and ensures timely, accurate results. It helps managers use resources wisely while maintaining high quality standards. Good decisions also improve teamwork and staff morale, creating a positive and productive environment. Most importantly, effective decision making minimizes errors and ensure patient safety and staff. With that, let's explore the main areas where decision making happens in the lab. Effective management involves decisions in several key areas. First, we have resource allocation. This is all about managing the lab's budget, supplies, and equipment wisely. The managers have to make sure resources are used efficiently so the lab can run smoothly without waste or shortages. Next is personal management. This involves hiring the right people, giving them proper training, and creating fair work schedules. It also means addressing any performance issues or conflicts to keep the team motivated and productive. Then we have the compliance and safety. In the lab, following rules and safety protocols is non negotiable. Managers need to make sure all operations meet regulatory standards to protect both the staff and the integrity of the lab's work. Another key area is project prioritization. Not all projects can be done at once, so managers must decide which one to focus on, usually based on importance, available resources, and their impact on the organizational goals. And finally, there's crisis response. This covers how managers handle unexpected situations like equipment breakdowns, contamination, or other emergencies. Quick and smart decisions during these moments help reduce risk and get the lab back on track fast. So now that we've seen where decision making happens, let's move on to how these decisions are actually made. A decision making framework guides us through the process. It tells us how to decide, while a technique, on the other hand, is a tool that helps us analyze and choose the best option. For example, frameworks include the rational model or OODA loop, while techniques include SWOT analysis or cost benefit analysis. Let's look at some of these frameworks in without. Let's look at some of these frameworks in more detail. These are the decision making frameworks. For the first one would be rational decision making model, intuitive decision making model, bounded rationality model, Bloom-Yatton-Jago decision model, and lastly the OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act. Frameworks give structure to our decisions, from identifying the problem, listing options, to selecting the best solutions. They help they help make decision logical, consistent, and effective. The first and most structured model we'll look at is the rational decision making model. The rational model is the most structured one. It's a step by step process where we define the problem, list all options, evaluate them carefully, and choose the best solution based on the data. It works best for big or complex decisions when we have enough time and information. In short, it focuses on finding the best decision, not just a quick one. But sometimes we don't have enough time to analyze everything, and that's where intuition comes in. The intuitive decision making model. It relies on gut feeling, instinct, and experience instead of analysis. It's useful in emergencies or uncertain situations where quick action is needed. In short, this model is about trusting your instincts when time is limited. Of course, most real-time situations are not fully logical or purely intuitive, and that explained by the next model. The bounded rationality model, which is proposed by Herbert Simon. This model accepts that people have limits. We don't always have all the time, data, or energy to find the perfect answer. So instead, we choose an option that's good enough, called satisficing. In short, it's about making realistic, practical decisions within world limits. Now, not all decisions are made alone. Sometimes we need our team's input. It's where Vroom-Yatton-Jago decision model comes in. This model helps leaders decide how much to involve others in making decisions. A leader can decide alone, consult the team for advice, or decide together as a group. In short, it helps leaders decide how to decide. And finally, in fast changing situations, we need to make decisions quickly and keep adapting. The OODA loop, or observe, orient, decide, act. The OODA loop, created by Colonel John Boyd, is a continuous process. We observe what's happening, analyze it, decide what to do, act, and then repeat the cycle. It's great for situations that require speed and flexibility. In short, it's about deciding and adapting faster than others. To sum up, each model fits a different situation. The rational model focuses on logic and data, the intuitive model on experience, the bounded rationality model on realistic limits, the Vroom-Yeto-Jago model on teamwork, and the OODA loop on adaptability. Together, these show that effective decision making in laboratory management is a balance of logic, experience, and flexibility, knowing when to think carefully and when to act quickly. Now, frameworks tells us how to approach a decision, while techniques gives us the tools to evaluate choices like analyzing risk, comparing cost, or ranking priorities. Let's go through some common decision-making techniques one by one. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It helps evaluate internal and external factors that affect a plan or project. For example, when buying a new laboratory information system, the lab might analyze the strength, for example, improve efficiency, accuracy, and traceability, integration, data management, and quality compliance. Now, for the weaknesses, we have high initial cost, training needs, transition period, dependence on IT support, customization, and customization limitation. While for the threats, we have cybersecurity risk, resistance to change, power or network outage, vendor dependency. And lastly, for the opportunities, we have digital transformation, improve competitiveness, data analytics, and integration with external system. Another useful technique is comparing cost and benefits. This compares the cost and benefits of each option. The one with the greatest net benefit is usually chosen. For instance, the lab might compare the cost of buying and training for a new LIS against benefits like reduced cost and faster reporting. When several options are available, we can use a more systematic comparison tool. Let's go for the next one, which is the decision matrix or weighted scoring model. This technique helps score and compare alternatives using set criteria like cost, usability, and security. The highest scoring option becomes the best choice. But what if we want to focus on the most important problems first? Before that, for example, of this decision matrix, we have to choose among several LIS vendors. The team rates each system based on cost, usability, customer support, data security, giving weights to each criterion. The system with the highest weighted score becomes the best choice. Now we go to the next one, which is the Pareto chart. This technique is based on the idea that 80% of results come from the 20% of causes. It helps identify which problems have the biggest impact so you can focus on what really matters. It's commonly used in quality control and process improvement. In short, it helps you focus on the most important issues first. For example, the lab identifies the main issues with the current LIS. It's the frequent downtime, slow data retrieval, and poor report formatting. They find that 80% of users' complaints come from just two issues, the downtime and the slow retrieval. This guides them to prioritize a new system that solves those major problems. Now, for a simpler decisions, a basic method can also work, which is the pros and cons list. These list the advantages and the disadvantages of each choice, quick and simple, though it doesn't weigh their importance. For example, before finalizing the purchase, the team lists the pros, which are the faster processing, easier integration, better support, and the cons, which is the high cost and long training time. Seeing both sides clearly helps the lab make a balanced decision. For more complex or strategic planning, we can consult the experts. It's where the Delphi technique comes in. This method gathers experts' opinion through rounds of anonymous surveys until the group reaches a consensus. It's great for forecasting or making well-informed group decisions. For example, to make an informed choice, the lab gathers opinions from experts like the IT staff, lab managers, and external consultants through multiple rounds of anonymous surveys. Consensus is reached on which LIS best fits the lab's needs. But sometimes we want creative ideas from the whole team. The next one is brainstorming or nominal group technique. It both encourage participation and idea generation. Brainstorming is open-ended while NGT structures and rank ideas. These help teams prioritize features or improvements effectively. For example, during a meeting, staff brainstorm what features they want in the new LIS, such as barcode integration or automatic results entry. Then, using the nominal group technique, they rank the most important features. This ensures everyone's input is heard before purchasing. Now, let's talk about a more advanced database approach, which is the Monte Carlo simulation. This uses probability and simulation to predict possible outcomes. It's useful for estimating risk or testing performance under uncertainty. For example, before buying, the lab simulates different usage scenarios, like high sample loads or delayed maintenance, to predict how each LIS might perform under stress. This helps choose the most reliable and risk resistant system. Finally, let's look at a creative way to see problems from different angles. The six thinking hats. It is created by Edward de Bono. This method uses six hats to look at a decision from different perspectives: facts, emotions, risk, benefits, creativity, and control. It ensures balanced thinking and collaboration in group decisions. For example, the team discusses the LIS purchase using different perspectives. Like, for example, the white hat, what's the data on cost and performance? For the red hat, how do users feel about changing systems? Under the black hat, what could go wrong? And the yellow hat, what benefits will it bring? The green hat, what creative solutions exist for training? And for the blue hat, how do we summarize and decide? This method ensures the team considers all viewpoints before finalizing the decision. Now let's summarize how these techniques can be applied together. Each technique offers unique insights. From SWOT big picture view to CBA's cost focus analysis and the six hats creative approach. When combined, they help the lab choose the most efficient, reliable, and cost effective solutions. Like for the SWOT analysis, as we've mentioned a while ago, we have these strengths, skilled staff, Weaknesses, limited budget. Opportunities, we have the improved efficiencies. Threats, we have the system compatibility issues, and so on. Now, for the next one, the lab uses the rational decision making model as its framework and cost benefit analysis as its technique. They identify the problem, evaluate options, calculate costs and benefits, and finally, choose the system that offers the best long term value. Of course, decision making isn't just about tools, it's about teamwork. This is an example of the combination on how to use the framework and the techniques. Like, for example, in deciding to buy a new laboratory information system, the lab uses, like what I said, the rational decision making model together with cost benefit analysis. Now, for the next one, it's all about leadership and team collaboration. Effective decision making involves collaboration. Good leaders listen to feedback, communicate clearly, and involve their teams in decisions. However, making good decisions also comes with challenges. Now, what are the challenges in decision making? Common challenges include having too much information, limited time, or personal biases. Sometimes, staff may resist change. Recognizing these barriers helps managers make fairer, more objective decisions. To overcome these challenges, it's important to follow best practices. Managers should use data to guide decisions, plan for different scenarios, stay updated with new trends, and always prioritize ethics and safety. Finally, let's wrap up everything we've learned. In summary, decision making in laboratory management is both an art and a science. By using the right frameworks, practical techniques, and teamwork, managers can make decisions that keep the lab efficient, safe, and innovative. As we've seen, decision making is at the heart of effective laboratory management. It's what keeps the lab organized, safe, and successful. Every choice, big or small, contributes to the overall quality of our work and the trust others place in our results. Before I end my presentation, I'd like to leave you with a meaningful quote that perfectly captures the essence of decision making. It says the best way to make decisions is to involve the people who will carry them out. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned a lot from my presentation.
Hello everyone. So my topic would be process improvement. Again, I am Diane Aurora M. Belize. These are our learning objectives. First is to define a process. 2. Measure the process performance. 3. Analyze causes of variation. 4. Generate and plan improvement ideas. 5. Implement change. 6. Study the results of changes. And 7. Act according to the results of the study. So the outline of the presentation is first to define a process. Under defining the process, we have brainstorming, multi-voting matrix, theme selection matrix, stakeholders identification, and also the flowchart. Step 2 is the measure process performance, wherein we will discuss the types of measures and the problem statement, plus the target indicator. Step 3 is analyzing the cause of variation, wherein we will talk about cause and effect, the Ishikawa diagram, and the TPN matrix. Step 4 is the generation of plan and improvement ideas, wherein we will discuss about work breakdown structure. Step 5 is the implement change, wherein we will see task tables and activities. Step 6 is the study results of change. We will talk about the improvement objective, and step 7 is act accordingly, or we will tackle about the outcomes. So here are the 7 steps that we were talking about for process improvement. Step 1 is the definition of the process. Step 2 is the measure process performance. Step 3 is the analyze causes of variation. So, and then we will go to the next steps or cycle of the process improvement. Steps 4 to 6, including the plan, do, study, and act. Later on, we will understand why are these last 4 steps in a cycle. So first, to define a process. By definition, a process is a repetitive sequence of activities leading to desired outcomes for the benefit of customers. Inputs are transformed by the process to achieve products or services. So these are the outputs. Example there in the picture is the healthcare delivery system, wherein you will see processes within that image itself. So basically, a process is anything that you see, okay, anywhere in a certain company, organization, even in your house, even our homes, right? We also have processes in our home. So it's applied, it's generally applied to anything that we do on a daily basis. So process improvement is defined as a systematic data-based method for improving the quality of specific work processes. It uses team decision making to improve processes that affect the quality of services or products of a client. What is quality? Quality is satisfying the customer's wants and needs for products and services while at the same time achieving the technical standards for public health practice. So this is already in relation to public health or to healthcare. So to define a process, we can use the following brainstorming tool, we can do multi-voting tool, and also the process selection criteria or the flow chart. So this is now the process. So you will see now the inputs, the process that you will put there, and also the outputs which will be received by the customer. So what do we look at? The quality of the inputs, probably the equipment and technology under or within the process, the competence and motivation of every personnel within that process, the rules and regulations defining now that process, and also the work environment. So what is the work environment? So most people come to work to do a good job. Most problems are with processes, not actually people. Every process can be improved continuously, and customers may not always do it, but they decide how good we are. So fear blocks innovation and improvement, and leaders must lead by example, not words. Process improvement guiding principles are the following. Number one, identification of processes by definition. Number two, process improvement should be driven by real data and not guesswork. Number three, sometimes data is not available. Therefore, qualitative methods must be used. Number four, the key to process improvement is making things better for the customers. Number five, process improvement is a continuous process and it never ends. And number six, it usually involves teams. So, step one, defining the process. This is the checklist that we have to answer or tick. So is the process defined or are the processes identified? Is a process selected? Are the customers defined? Are the products and services identified? Are the customers' wants and needs understood? And also other stakeholders are identified. So process boundaries and levels, we want to know how large it is, how large the process is, where does the process start, where does it finish, what are the relationships with customers and the people involved, and also if you are involved in this process, what level are you working, or high are you in the high level or in the lower level. So these are the example of your process, right? So this is a patient's discharge process wherein it starts with the physician's discharge order, the blood bank and pharmacy clearance, the billing statement, and then it will go to the social services for whatever financial assistance there is, and then payment to the cashier until the patient is now cleared from the ward. So that's an example of a process. No? So there's a beginning and then there's an end. This one also is another examples of vaccination administration boundaries. So we have here the immunization program. So this is in the public health side. So you have here, for example, the immunization program. So the general process is the development of the immunization strategy to securing the funding, to supplying the vaccines, vaccinating children, and also the monitoring of the effectiveness of the strategy. But within the general process, you now hear the vaccine administration. So from the vaccination, within that process or that step, vaccination of children, there is an underlying process again, no? So this is now your promotion of the benefits of the vaccination. So these are necessary processes again within another process for that process to for example for this one, for the vaccination of children to happen. So there are another step or another process within that. So that's the one on the right, promotion of benefits of vaccination, receiving, recording, and the storage of your vaccines, registration of the patient, administering of the vaccine, and also monitoring the side effects of the vaccines. Okay, so let's identify now and select the processes. How do we do that? What is it? So it's a way to use a group of people to quickly generate, clarify, and also evaluate a large list of ideas. So why is it useful? It makes use of creativity and also encourages participation. Now, what's the focus of this? For quality improvement or in quality improvement, the focus really on public health is on public health processes. So the team, what team can influence, or rather is it a broad public health issue? So what will be the focus of this process? Will it be, again, will it be the team that influences it, or will it be a very broad public health issue, diba? So depending on what is really the problem within the process. Okay, so we have to define kung sino yung nag-i-influence doon sa process na yon. So usually sa brainstorming, it will involve staff or personnel. Okay, doon po sa atin pong facility or organization. So, halimbawa po sa hospital. So, yung isang public health issue na nakikita nila is overcrowding of patients in the hospital. So, ano yung mga pwedeng problema dun sa proseso, no? That the team can influence. Because mostly, what we can improve actually in a process are the things that we can only control. Kung ano lamang po yung pwedeng makontrol. So, halimbawa dito is improvement of the discharge process or the triage kasi that's where the personnel are involved, directly involved. Pag sa public health naman, for example, one of the broad na public health issue is measles cases, for example. So, what would be the preferable process problem that the team can influence? Probably the vaccination schedule. Okay, maybe having more vaccine schedules to target more patients or more clients. Okay, next. So, sa brainstorming tool, we have three stages. Number one is the generation stage, wherein the team members can actually build on others' ideas, diba? It's like on a daily basis sa atin, if we have group of friends, so what are we, for example, what restaurant are we going to eat? And then, diba, one friend will suggest something, will give ideas or reasons bakit yun yung pinili niyang restaurant, and then another one can bank on that one. Diba, na parang, okay, maganda nga dyan, ano, kasi may ganito, and then another one will also suggest. So, it's the same. This is the generation stage wherein all ideas are put into writing or put into the table. No? So, the second stage is the clarification stage wherein the data, for example, ito, data is not properly recorded. Yan. So, ano yung clarification sa issue? Is it ba incorrect yung recording or incomplete? So, which one is actually the reason bakit merong hindi nare-record or the data is not properly recorded? No? So, we have to combine similar topics into one topic. Pwede rin. Okay, so the third stage is the evaluation stage. For example, you are a rural health clinic staff. So the brainstormed issue is the procurement of the agents for TB. Halimbawa, nahuhuli or kulang. So we discuss now or evaluate the issue. No, we evaluate now this one. So, ano yung mga problema doon basically? Is it really the procurement? Or like, for example, this one, ano yung sa reagents ng TB? So, merong problema or may delays, okay, from the provincial supply office or supply chain. Ganyan. No? So, that's now your evaluation stage. So again, ano naman yung multi-voting tool na pwede nating gamitin? So this is another tool aside from the brainstorming. So this is a subjective method of reducing the size of a list to 3 to 5 items using a structured approach, because we have to remember in certain uh, issues in a certain facility or organization, minsan hindi lang yan isa, right? We can, like during the brainstorming, ang dami nating pwedeng sabihin na issues. But then again, when we do process improvement, we have to choose kung ano yung pinaka-urgent, 'di ba? So, ito yung gamit ng multi-voting tool, no? So, we will now, yung mga na-brainstorm kanina will be reduced now to 3 to 5 items, no? Using a structured approach. So, bakit to useful? It reduces list quickly and also encourages participation and buy-in of those who are involved in the process. Yan. So, how to do it? So, we have different votes. So, una sa first vote natin, the team members can actually vote for as many items na parang interesting, no, na issue or tingin nila is a pressing issue that has to be addressed. No? So, the team circles as many items having relatively higher counts as it wishes. But in the second vote, so same process, but the team members now will vote for no more than half of the number of circled items. So, mas magpa-prioritize na naman ng kailangang i-improve na issue. Okay, and then other votes, the team continues now in the same manner until magkakaroon ka na lang ng 3 to 5 items in the list. So this is an example. Example lang po ito, no? So this was one of the activities we did dun po sa amin pong training sa epidemiology. So for example, ito yung mga nakitang problema pagdating po sa disease surveillance. So yung mga medyo hindi maganda yung quality ng MDBs. These are your Microsoft database. Okay, ito po yung database po natin ng mga diseases kung saan na-encode. So hindi po hindi po lahat ng mga reports ay kompleto or accurate na naisasend sa Epidemiology Bureau. Tapos may mga late release ng mga disease surveillance reports. So that's your Philippine Integrated Disease Surveillance Report. Ayan, and then you have non-updating of laboratory reports sa ibang regions. Yung mga late po na mga annual report. So, dito naka-identify yung mga year and then the long turnaround time. So, merong first vote. Halimbawa, ito yung mga stakeholders. So, lahat sila na 8, binote nila kung ano yung tingin nilang ay importante na issue. And then, dun sa kanilang second vote, yun nga, mamimili na lang. So, dapat yun na lang, mamimili na lang po sila kasi that's like 5. So, mga 2 na lang or 3 na lang yung pwede nilang piliin na pinaka-pressing na issue. And then next, okay, so from the voting kanina, 'di ba, yung may iwan na lang po sa third vote na mga 4 to 5 na mga themes or issues. So yun po ngayon yung pwedeng gawa na ng theme selection matrix wherein you will now multiply yung impact on the customer and the need to improve. Tas makita natin yung overall rating para malaman natin ano yung pinaka-importante or pressing issue talaga dun sa mga naiwan na binote natin. So yung skill natin dyan is actually 1 as none, and then 5 yung extreme. So, doon sa impact ng customer, sasagutin natin yung question, how severe is each occurrence, no? And then, doon sa need to improve, ang sasagutin natin dyan, gaano kadalas, so, di ba? Gaano kadalas ang minsan? How frequently does it occur, that issue? So, yung overall, the theme receiving now the highest ranking should be investigated, setting an indicator and actually measuring the present level and comparing it to the valid requirements. So, if there is a difference, then the team should proceed. If not, it should investigate. They should investigate now yung next po na theme or next highest. Okay, let's go to the list of products and services identified. So the products of or services of the process or within that process identified. So it can be tangible or intangible. Pwedeng bagay, it can be information or knowledge or procedure or function within that process. So examples, sa mga pharmaceuticals, mga test results, public health information, pwede sa mga outbreak investigation procedures or mga medical records. We also have yung mga customers' wants and needs. So for this one, we use now the stakeholders matrix. So if we improve this process, what will be the impact? No? So sa una, it can impact the customer satisfaction. compliance with technical standards, yung waste that is produced within that process, and also satisfaction of other stakeholders. So ano nga ba yung customer satisfaction? No? So any person who receives a product or service, yun yung customer. No? So can be external, it can be the clients or the families, it can be internal, the colleagues as well. So it's used broadly and no financial transaction needed. So for the process selection criteria, so we also look at the following types of waste in the work processes, too much or little inventory of supplies, do people move a lot because of poor layout within the vicinity or within the facility, the paperwork and supplies handled many times, excessive waiting time of patients and staff, and also data in information recorded many times. So for the stakeholders, these are actually pwedeng person or a group of persons having an interest or concern in a particular process resulting from some direct or indirect involvement. So your stakeholders can be the customers, the providers. Sino yung providers natin? Can be the pwedeng pag may nagbibigay, okay, if you're working in a government facility, 'di ba? So yung mga binibigay ng DOH or binibigay ng LGU na mga supplies. Siyempre yung suppliers itself, kung nasa private kayo, no, yung mga supplier ninyo, mga companies that supply your consumables or other, whichever is applicable. And of course, you have your controllers like your management or the admin. No? So, ito is example lang. This is an example of a stakeholder analysis so that we will understand more. So, this is an antiretroviral treatment stakeholder. So, for HIV. So, we have here senior controllers, of course, the ones who give now the rules and regulations, policies on this one. So, you have the Ministry of Health or sa atin, the DOH, you have the mga district health centers, regional health facilities, you have your PEPFAR, you have your PEPFAR kasi sa Amerika to, no, yung President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. Yan, mga global funds yan. So, actually, naambunan naman tayo sa Pilipinas niyan. Clinical Advisory Committee, HIV/AIDS advocacy groups as well. So, syempre, yung ating pong suppliers, yan, yung mga clinics natin, yung voluntary, ito, di ba, yung voluntary po na nagko-consult, yan, for treatment. You have your pharmaceutical companies, mga lab suppliers, mga funders as well. So, sila yung magpo-provide ng antiretroviral therapy. Kanino? Sa customers natin. Pwedeng sa mga PLHIVs, mga family or relatives, and also the community. And then, sa providers naman na identified for this one is yung mga physicians and nurses, yan, yung mga healthcare workers sa mga wellness clinics natin, the counselors, the phlebotomist, and then the pharmacist. Okay? So, ito po yung mga atin pong mga example po, no, na stakeholder analysis. So, other important questions that we have to answer: does the team have the authority to make improvements? Are the resources available to achieve improvement? Can significant improvements be achieved quickly and easily? And do the key stakeholders support the improvement? So this is the flowchart process naman, ano? So we can do a flowchart of our process. A flowchart will actually give us an understanding of how a process works, the sequence of all the steps, including feedback packs, clear data collection points, and ideas for improvement. So a flowchart can show us the existing processes, new processes, or changes doon po sa ating process. Now, this is an example of a flow chart which is familiar tayo, no? So, this is a discharge procedure. So, may start siya and then may ending siya. So, saan pupunta yung pasyente, anong gagawin ng nurses, etc., no? So, ito po yung sample, which is, I know we're very familiar already. So, just to delve on the parts of that flow chart, so usually our stop or start symbol is the circle. So, for this one, diba, the doctor writes order for patients discharge. So, that's the start, yung circle po. Usually, that's the stop and the start symbol. For the activity symbol, it will be dun sa naka-rectangle or naka-square. No? So, dito nakikita natin anong gagawin ng nurse on duty. So, he or she will carry out now the order of the medical doctor. So, activity symbol is the one in rectangle. And then for the decision symbol, we use now the diamond. So, makita natin, one will point to yes, and then one will point to no, depending on the question. So, these are yes or no questions so that the patient or the process owner will know where to go next. So, for example, are payments made? If yes, saan pupunta? If no, saan pupunta yung patient. Okay, or paano mo i-assist yung customer natin or yung client natin. So, summary natin sa step 1, defining a process. Again, ito yung checklist natin, no? Is the process identified or processes identified? Na-select ba yung process? Are the customers defined? Are the products and services identified? Yung wants and needs ng customers natin, are they understood? And also, the other stakeholders, are they identified? And also, naintindihan ba yung existing process? So again, we're done with your step 1. So the step 2 now is the measure of the process performance, no? So dito sa process performance, we do now your problem statement, what are your target indicators, and also the types of measures that we will be using. So for the measure of the process performance, this will be our checklist. So are the measures identified? Are they selected? Are the data collected? Are the data analyzed and presented? Na-state ba yung problem, and meron bang improvement objective na nasabi? Okay, so after defining the process, now we understand how well it is performing. So our measure of the process performance is actually driven by the step 1 results. So ano ang indicators? Indicators are the ones that actually describe as much of the system as possible in few points as possible. So if you can't measure it, sabi nga, you can't manage it. No, kailangan measurable po yung nandoon sa atin pong mga indicators. So anong gamit ng indicators again? For understanding. So this is the research rule, how the system works. The performance, this is the managerial role. So monitoring system versus a set of standards. And then also for accountability. So ito yung democratic role, holding up now to customers. So sa indicator analogy, no, so parang ganito yung indicator. Imagine now, you have a car dashboard. So you have indicator warning lights, no? So sasakyan lahat yan, yung mga nakita nyo sa picture, these are actually indicator lights, warning of a certain thing. So it is fed by one of many streams of data, maybe oil level, temperature, speed, etc. So it flashes when all is not well. So suggesting now that we have to stop a car because the indicator alerts us to something worthy of further investigation. So ganun din po sa atin pong processes. Alright, so example ito, you have your indicator anatomy here. So you have the metadata, no? Halimbawa, infant mortality rate. So paano natin identify? Yung number of deaths of children age less than 1 year for every 1,000 live births in that community in the same year. So, ano yung data na meron tayo? The numbers that are fed into it. So, ito na po yung pinaka-data. Ito yung indicator nyo na may problema, no? So, 50 deaths of children under the age of 1 in a community where there have been 5,000 live births. So, ano yung infant mortality rate mo? No, mataas. 50 deaths for 5,000 live births or 10 deaths per 1,000 live births, which is actually an indicator para kumbaga it's a warning already that you have to do something because there is a problem based on the data. So what are the good practices? Measure what is important. No? Check data with operational definition. Keep it simple if you can. There should be minimal interference. You should have normal conditions as well. Don't invent the wheel. No data. Pag no data, design a method for collection. Create operational definitions. Low numbers, show raw numbers, so not percent if the data are very low naman. And then use graphs and don't average percentages, no? Para mas accurate yung inyong data. So, for example, ito, no, performance gap, you have a target there, yung pong may red broken line. So, that's the target. So, halimbawa, meron kang agreed upon facts based on the standards which are being reviewed regularly. Sa atin sa lab, for example, sa quality control, di ba, we do this one. That's actually measuring the process performance, ano? So, are we achieving the target? Ganon. Okay, so ito yung example niya. Okay, so operational definition natin, dapat malinaw, it should be useful, and it should be shared by stakeholders. So your stakeholders should also understand ano yung definition ng process nyo, yung operational definition ng processes nyo within your facility or your organization. So these are the sources of measures, the customer's needs and reasonable expectations, the other key stakeholders' requirements, the technical standards, and also from within the process. So, paano natin gagawin or saan manggagaling yung customers' measures? So, it is generated from voice of customers and their wants and needs. That's why we have our customer surveillance forms, diba? And then, noon nakikita natin kung effective ba yung treatment. Is the environment safe for them? Do they receive timely care? Meron bang confidentiality? And also, is there respect and dignity? Okay? So, sa stakeholder measures naman, this is generated from key stakeholders' wants, no? Like for example, kanina yung mga diniscuss natin na controllers, providers, yan. So, meron silang wants or meron silang require from us. So, yun po yung yun yung measure natin kung ano yung gusto naman ng stakeholder, no? So, often it is the funding agencies measures that is priority. Okay, so technical measures also are generated from best practices as defined by scientific research, and these measures are often disease specific and based on medical protocols. For the process measures, these are taken at key points in the process. They are not usually of direct interest to customers and other stakeholders. They are selected because they have a significant impact on the process outcomes. So what are the factors now in selecting measures? Number one, the difference between your actual and your desired performance. Number two, yung feasibility of making a dramatic improvement. Number three, the importance set by customers and other stakeholders, such as a funding agency. Number four, the impact that an improvement could have on the overall performance of the process. And number five, yung feasibility measurement. So is answering the questions possible ba? Do we have a data? Will it take a lot of time? Yan. So, we have here now case example. So, ito yung ART ulit no, sa HIV. So, antiretroviral measures. Halimbawa dito, you have your customer measures. So, ano yung imi-measure nyo? Effective ba yung treatment and yung timeliness ng training? So, nandyan yung operational definition. CD for improvement above target, time from testing positive to receiving appropriate ART regimen if meeting criteria. Pag stakeholder measure, ano yung mga pwedeng i-measure? Again, di ba dapat measurable? So, number of new patients. So, ano yung operational definition niya? Yung initiated ART during a reporting period. You also have number of current patients. So, ang operational definition niya will be, ito yung individuals on ART at the end of the reporting period. And then you also have number of cumulative patients. So, this is defined as the total number of individuals ever on ART since the start of the emergency plan. Pag technical measure naman, for this example, you measure the compliance with rapid test protocol. So the operational definition is the follow laboratory quality assurance protocol. Sa process measures ang dami, no? You have your referral time from VCT to ART, yung voluntary po yan. And then you have your laboratory turnaround time and also the adherence rate. So may kita nyo kanilang definition. Pag sa referral time, dun sa voluntary po ito, no, na VCT on to ART, no? So you have there now your time in days from post-counseling, voluntary counseling ito, and testing. Yan. Tapos yung sa laboratory turnaround time, kabilis, no, yung pong atin pong specimen collection to results na na-represent sa physician. And then adherence rates naman is defined as percentage of ART patients who self-report adherence to the prescribed regimen over the last 3 months. So this is an example, okay, ng mga measurements and how we use the measurements in our process improvement. Yan. So we also have what we call your stratification, wherein we divide set of data into meaningful subgroups or strata. No? So like for example, for this one, percent of people who missed appointments per week. So ito yung kanyang division, no? Yung weekly. Kasi you can also assess what happened within that week. Bakit ganyan yung result or bakit ganyan yung data. We can also use Pareto principle. So in process improvement, typically majority of the problems, often approximately 80% originate from a minority of the causes. So often approximately mga 20%. So these are the critical few causes. Konti man sila pero critical, di ba? So critical few causes. So sa Pareto chart, we break big problems into smaller pieces and we identify now the most significant factors that shows where to focus efforts and allows better use of limited resources. So anong sabi sa Pareto principle? In any group of things that contribute to a common effect, a relatively few contributors account for the majority of the So these are now your types of errors discovered during vaccination. This is just an example. So halimbawa, ito yung errors, no? Mga unsterilized syringe, walang records sa yung client list natin, unchecked yung vaccine schedule, wrong vaccine, and experience yung health worker, and then lahat yan. Unchecked vaccine date of expiration, no prep materials for vaccination, no health advisory given to mothers. So, nandiyan po yung frequency na nakalagay. Okay, so kung gaano karami. Saan po nakikita ito? Doon sa data ng inyo pong facility. So, for this one, usually sa RHU yan, sa mga health facilities, no? So, ito yung pwedeng gamitan. Ito yung Pareto chart niya, no? So, this yung by frequency. So, measured in percentage and then pwede po siyang i-plot. So, makita nyo po dun sa x-axis natin, no, nandun yung mga errors that were experienced, tapos gaano kadalas, okay, yung mga ganitong error doon sa area or doon sa facility, no. So, kung makita natin, for example, for this one, yung mga inexperienced health worker, yan pala yung pinakamataas yung frequency, no. So, at least you already have data kung ano dapat at saan kayo magfo-focus. Ito pala yung problema. So, these are actually small, sabi natin, no, these are very small na parang mga data na meron palang effect dun sa bigger issue na ang tawag dito na yun nga, the brainstorm, for example, kanina. Alright, so parang ito rin, no? Example din ito. So may mga, kung makita natin yung highest daw na tatlo, unchecked vaccine schedule, not recorded. Yan. So vital few, ang konti lang, di ba, nung parang ito yung sa inexperienced workers natin. But actually, yan, so useful many itong mga ibang mga factors, di ba? Pero yun pala, yung yun pong ating mga vital few na yan, these are the factors that warrant the most attention. No? And then the useful many are actually the factors that while useful to know about, they have actually effect, yung effect nila is relatively small. Yan. So, yan po yun. Alright, for the variation naman, these are common causes result from the process itself. So they are inherent in the design, implementation, and operation of the process. The common cause variation remains the same from day to day. So the special causes come from sources outside the process. They relate to some special event. It is sensible to investigate now the actual reason. So we also have run charts. These are the ones that we use to monitor the process. Common yan sa atin sa laboratory, So they help distinguish between special and common causes of variation. They also provide the evidence as to whether an implemented improvement idea has been successful or not. So Iran exists when a number of consecutive points lie on the one side of the mean. Diba sa QC natin? So if significant, the run could indicate a special cause or the start of a common cause shift. So for example po ito, meron kang number of data points, 10, 20, 30. And then the run length is significant if there are this many consecutive data points above or below the mean. So 5, 7, and then 10 respectively. So halimbawa po ito sa it is an example of a case in a voluntary counseling and testing for HIV sa isang area. So clinic to sa attendance ng mga nagvi-VCT. Ayan. So this was in 2004, So makikita nyo yung point na yan, it was well above any others and it's likely to be special. So maybe something happened during this month that was attributable to that special event. Yung mean kasi dito is 960 based on 11 data points excluding the special cause. So, first signal nila actually ito. From this point on, 6 points are above the previous mean and merong 18 points. So, a run of 6 over 7 should be signal na nila. Okay, that there something happened on that period of time. So, ano yung mga pwede nilang makita? The mayor receives the VCT, yung advocacy or yung plan for the voluntary counseling and testing ng HIV. And then, nagkaroon sila ng advocacy or campaign, national campaign. So, kung makikita natin ngayon, nagkaroon ng increase, di ba? Nag-increase ng attendance ng patient doon sa kanilang clinic for the rest of the year na siya. Yan, hanggang sa 2006 pa ngayon nakalagay dyan. So, ano yung process improvement nila? Yun, yung nagkaroon sila ng national campaign para tumaas, 'di ba? Above the mean na. So, diyan na mami-measure kung effective yung kanilang ginawang improvement for their process. Ayan. So, ito na ngayon, may mga self-reported ART adherence pa. Okay, so yung target dyan, yung sa pinakataas, kaya lang dito may kita natin they are below the target pa rin, no? So, based on the mean calculations. Ayan. So, sa problem statement, alam natin to naman, ano? So, these are what we answer: who, what, when, where, and then how many. So, anong improvement objective natin? We answer the questions: what's the problem? Where is it? What do we want to do? And kailan? By when? Yan. So, example, a problem statement, no? So, in 2012, only 48% in our HUX had fully immunized children when the technical standard specifies 95%. Ang improvement statement natin will be, yung may time bound siya, no? By the end of December 2013, we will improve fully immunized children on our HUX from 48% to 95%. So, very specific yung target plus the timeline is defined. So, ano yung gagawin natin ulit sa measure process performance? These are our checklist. Are the measures selected? Are the data collected? Are the data analyzed and presented? Are the problems stated? And also, is the improvement objective stated? So, step 3 natin is analyzing now the causes of variation. So, this one, I think we always hear this root cause analysis, ano? What is the root cause of the problem, no? So, ano yung pinakapulot dulo ng problema? Yan. So, sa atin pong analyzing ng causes of variation, so this is our checklist. So, many possible causes of variation generated. Meron bang critical cause agreed? And also, what critical cause has been verified where possible? Yan. So, sa root cause analysis, this is a method of problem solving for identifying now the root cause of problems. We identify now the factors that resulted in the nature, the magnitude, or the location, and also the timing of the harmful outcomes or consequences of one or more past events. So, we determine as well what behaviors, actions, inactions, or conditions need to be changed, and we have to prevent recurrence of similar harmful outcomes. Also, we identify lessons that may promote the achievement of better consequences. So, we ask why sa root cause analysis, no? Parang mga bata, di ba, kapag sinabi na, Mami, bakit po blue yung sky? Kasi ganito, ganyan. But why? But why? Why? No? So, ganun yung root cause analysis. We ask why, identify the causes associated with each sequential step towards the defined problem or event. So, why is taken to mean what were the factors that directly resulted in the effect. So, lahat ng bakit. Okay, so for root cause analysis, this is now our Ishikawa diagram, no? I think maybe some of you are familiar already. So, ano yung parts ng Ishikawa? So, we have here now yung pinakadulo dyan is ano yung problem, existing problem, no? That was identified already dun sa first steps natin. And then, we see now the different possible, yung mga major na reasons like pwedeng material, method, machine, and then also pwedeng environment, measurement, or manpower, whichever applies. And then yung parang kanyang mga, yung fishbone analysis, no? Ito yon yung Ishikawa. So, yung kanyang mga branches dyan. So, you can see there, from the material, halimbawa kung material, what's the secondary cause? Okay, ng bakit yun yung problema. And then, meron ka pang primary cause. Bakit meron kang secondary cause, no? So, tingnan natin yung examples. Let's take this issue for example or problem. So from July to September 2015, only 14% of no balance billing, uncomplicated, normal spontaneous delivery patients went home within 24 hours from discharge order, which causes now overcrowding that contributes to poor quality patient care. So ano yung nakita nilang possible na problema? Pwedeng sa logistics, pwedeng sa manpower, pwedeng sa process, pwedeng sa client, no? But we have to specify bakit yung logistics, bakit yung manpower, bakit yung process, or bakit yung client. No? So, yun po yung gamit nitong Ishikawa. So, let's see. For example, no, sa manpower, pag manpower yung problema, ang nakalagay daw dyan na problema is yung multitasking of assigned staff. So, bakit multitasking? Bakit may problema sa multitasking of assigned staff? So, andyan yung na-enumerate. Hindi priority ng staff. Bakit? Kasi new order of patients for discharge were not processed immediately. Bakit? Ganun ulit siya, no? Bulk of charts for encoding of patients' charges, finally, final diagnosis and tagging of your MGA. So for the critical cause, these are the totally or partially under your control na cause, it will deliver an improvement which is expected to have the greatest impact on the following: customers' needs and reasonable expectations, and also performance to technical standards. You also have selection using your TPN. Ano ibig sabihin ng TPN? T for totally within your control to improve, P for partially within your control to improve, and N not in your control. So focus on the T or P because those are the ones that you can control. Ends can be assigned to other teams or individuals who may be involved in that process. Ayan. So this is now your TPN matrix. What can you control, diba? So can you control it? Partial? No, no, ganun po siya. And then of course, you have your root causes there na ililist down po natin. And then what are your remarks also? So critical causes verified if possible. So meron bang yung existing data natin? You can see, look at your tally sheets, logbooks, etc. You can have your survey, di ba, yung mga client satisfaction survey natin, mga external evaluation, pwede rin, and then mga focus group discussion. So, ito yung sa cause and effect, di ba, yung kanina nating pinag-usapan, yung fishbone analysis. So, you have your problem statement, tapos yung mga nasa pinakadulo kasi nung tinik niya, those are the major cause category. Again, yung mga branches sasagutin, yung mga why, okay, doon po sa iba't ibang mga branches po na yan. So, example natin to, no? Yung causes daw ng variation. So, sabi dyan sa example, yung problem is from July to December 2018, only 27% of PIDSAR weekly disease surveillance reports were released on time. PIDSAR again, no, is yung Philippine Integrated Disease Surveillance Reports. So, 27% lang daw yung na-release. So, bakit daw? Ano yung possible na reason? So, pwedeng yung pinaka-causes yung sa material, pwedeng manpower, and then pwede rin yung process. So, yan yung mga identified. Okay na causes po nun. So, pag manpower, nakalagay siya, no? Lack of manpower, sabi niya ganyan. So, bakit merong bakit may problema sa manpower? Ano yung specific? Nakalagay dyan, lack of manpower. So, bakit merong lack of manpower? So, merong overlapping and additional activities ng, ano yung nagre-result? Bakit nagkaroon ng lack of manpower? Parang ganun, no? So, meron kasing overlapping and additional activities or programs on top of routine work, nagmumultitask yung staff. Tapos dito sa baba, another issue is na under manpower is wala daw plantilla position available. So bakit? Ganon, no? So yung mga job orders daw, so bakit walang plantilla yun? So yung mga job orders na anong ginagawa? They look na for greener pasture, mabilis yung turnover ng mga staff, tapos merong mga transition ng newly hired PIDSAR staff and then newly appointed staff. So ito yung naging problema sa issue 9, or these are the causes, sorry, of that pressing issue or problem. Ayan. So, sa TPN matrix naman, pag ginamit natin to, so you list down now all the root causes that was identified kanina. No? So, andyan lahat, lack of manpower, yung mga disease surveillance officers, kulang na, no? And then they have no plantilla positions, the software needs updating, no written protocol for reconciliation, and then no protocol for urgent requests. So, ngayon, you will have to evaluate, diba? So, meron ka bang control? If you have partial control, yun. So, iti-check mo siya. As the stakeholder, kung ikaw or the process owner, meron ka bang total control? So, nakita nyo dyan, no? Yung naka-check yung 4, 5, 6 naman. So, ano yung improvement idea? You can list down now improvement ideas for each of the root causes. So, nandyan, hiring additional. Ayan, bakit po partial control lang? Kasi the hiring usually naman, it will depend on the funding na meron po doon sa unit, sa epidemiology unit. Ano? And again, the funding will still, you can propose, but the final pa rin naman na decision ng proposal mo for funding will be from the management, ganun siya, or sa mga boss. Yun. Kaya siya naging partial. Okay, so ano yung controlled mo? Siguro yung updating ng software. No? So, pwedeng i-lobby for the updating. Yung protocols, pwedeng yung gawin yung protocols. And also, yung mga urgent requests, pwedeng gawan ng protocol, no, advisory probably, or tawag dito, process flow sa inyong agency. So, same din kung kayo ay nasa lab, no? So, you can now measure kung ano yung controlled mo lang doon sa mga issues. So, the summary ng ating pong step 3 is yung itong mga ito, many possible causes of variation generated, critical causes agreed, critical causes have been verified where possible. Um, Next step 4 is to generate and plan improvement ideas. So ito na, it's a cycle, ano? So it's a cycle. You plan, you do, study, or act. Bakit siya cycle? Kasi nagplano ka ng improvement, so ginawa mo, inaral mo ngayon kung maganda yung improvement mo or yung process, yung improvement process na ginawa mo or method na ginawa mo, and then kung merong problemang onte, you act on it. And then if there's a problem with that, yung gagawan mo ulit siya ng paraan para maayos. And then again, you plan again kung ano yung gagawin. So it's a cycle, no? An ending cycle po siya. So we plan, we do, we study, and then we act. So sa step 4 natin, we use our work breakdown structure. It starts with the end in mind. Sabi, no, list the project objective. So ito yung kanilang parang pinaka-theme. Start with the end in mind, diba? I think an author wrote that also. So determine the resources required to complete it. Determine the task needed in order to complete the project. And then number 4 is continue to break tasks down in order to identify specific resource requirements. So ito yung breakdown structure natin. Okay. This is the planning checklist na brainstorm yung improvement ideas. You agree on ways within your institution, agree on ways to address the critical causes, and then we can now create a work breakdown structure and then assign it to whoever individual is necessary to do the action. Yan. And then we now implement the change that we planned kanina, no? So ano yung gagawin natin sa doing? So na-communicate na ba yung change if you're going to make a policy? So has it been communicated sa lahat ng personnel within your facility? Did you do necessary trainings as if they need? May mga na-implement ba na change? And also are the data collected? So this is the checklist now for the doing part naman po nung cycle. So sa implementation ng change, these are the following na pwedeng gagawin, no? So, implement the work breakdown structure. All people involved in implementation should know what they are doing and then why. So, we have to communicate the plan. The data collection is very important, no? So, dapat same yung measurement mo from the indicator nung una, no, ng gusto mong i-improve, di ba? From the first parts of the process improvement. So, there should be a method, the period, the tools, so same lang. And then also, appropriate frequency of measurement. No? So, kailangan you have your appropriate frequency of measurement. And then, you have now your study, part of the cycle. So, ano naman yung checklist natin sa study? How do we do it? Yung improvement objective was reviewed, the data was analyzed, and then findings are okay, let's give an example. So, dito, yung problem sa example na to is that 33% ang not immunized children doon sa certain area. So, after now all the process improvement methods, techniques na ginawa, yung result niya ngayon is 60% na lamang yung not immunized. So, yung measurement na ginamit dapat parehas, no? Kung paano na-gather yung data doon sa when you were analyzing the problem, dapat yun din yung same data, same method, same analysis na gagamitin for the measurement ng improvement ng process, no? Same indicators dapat siya. Siyempre, para maging valid now yung nakita natin na change kung meron talagang improvement or wala. Yan. And then the last step is act accordingly. So, depending on the study, depending on the result of your study kanina, now you have so after all the measurements or the studying kung nag-improve nga yung process, these are the 3 outcomes. So pag expected outcome mo ay nangyari, no, yung expected improvement outcome mo ay nangyari, you can expand your pilot project or your pilot program. You can communicate it to stakeholders, no, and then you can also incorporate into standard operating procedures. Number 2, pwedeng not quite your expected outcome. So you may refine now your idea and then you run through the PDSA again. Pag walang improvement, which is another outcome, well, okay, pwedeng you can refine the theory kung meron pang ideas na pwede, or pwedeng you move into another process kasi pwedeng hindi pala talaga applicable or not within your control pala talaga, okay, yung process na yon, yung issue na yon, no? So, you may move now to another process. Di ba, nag-voting naman kanina. So, you may move to So, ito ngayon yung summary ng ating ACT process. So, this is your checklist. Is the improvement successful? is the success communicated? Are the procedures updated? And is training delivered, no, if required doon sa inyong process? So these are the questions that you have to answer. Again, the 7 steps now would involve your definition of the process, measuring of the process performance, analyzing the causes of variation, and then we go to your cycle, plan, do, study, act, step 4 to 7. So, ano yung mga possible outcomes natin? You may have achieved the improvement objective. Some may have improved and pwedeng walang na-improve. Yan. So again, these are the possible outcomes. It's not all the time that when you do your process improvement ay may improve talaga ang isang proseso. There are a lot of factors. But then again, these are all necessary for us to improve dun sa facility na meron tayo or the facility that you are involved in or organization that or institution that you are involved in. So that's it for our report. Thank you very much and God bless us all. From the Cordilleras, we say Iyaman.